Alright, Arrow Season 2 premiere titled City of Heroes. This episode I really appreciated because obviously, with it being the season premiere, there are a lot of questions that have to be answered, based on the fact that this season starts, I believe, 6 months after the end of season 1. So, people have gone through events and, certain things have happened between season 1 and 2 that are referenced that we don't actually see, like Tommy's funeral. And there's tons of things going on. Oliver's mom is in prison. Thea is taking over the club, and Oliver, after Tommy's funeral, he basically left. And one of the biggest twists to me was the fact that this episode kind of starts off with Oliver on the island, and it's in present time. So he goes back to the island, and he's even in his old training, like, well, not really training area, but his basically his living area, when he was originally on the island. And something that I like about this episode is, once again, we get clips of the past, and for this one it doesn't tie into a specific lesson that he learned from the past, but that's mostly so that we can just get the story going for what happened in the past. And whatever they deal with, they obviously beat the people, because if you notice, when Diggle, he's getting the parachute and stuff, when he's going, before they actually land, they show the ship and it's kind of blown up, so like there's parts of it sticking out of the water. I'm like almost 100% sure that's the ship that we actually see towards the end of the episode in the flashback scene. It's that ship. So whoever those people are, obviously Oliver defeats him. He's still alive, and hopefully, Slade and Shadow are too. They just haven't, kind of all found each other, even though it's obviously not hard to find Oliver. But hopefully they are still alive. That would be, however that plays out, if they are still alive, it would be great to see them come back. And as far as Slade, being Deathstroke or not being Deathstroke, I'm still curious to see how that works out, because, the mask is still on the island. They went past it, it's still there. So is it, the mask from the guy that they call Deathstroke, or is it the mask from Slade? Because for, people who don't know, Slade Wilson is Deathstroke. So I don't know if they just separated the characters. One guy was Deathstroke and then Slade knew him, or if they're going to make Slade into Deathstroke somehow. But I hope they don't do that, because I like him as a good guy, because he's, a funny character. And, in this episode, in the flashback scene, it was cool to see, the progression of time. And now, rather than Oliver being the weak guy who Slade has to train, they're kind of dead even until, Shadow comes in and Oliver gets distracted. But, they're kind of even, and it kind of, it sort of, for me, kind of flashed me back to season 1 when Oliver was training with Diggle. And, like, they're almost evenly matched. And then, like I said, Shadow comes in and, Oliver gets distracted. And we see in this episode, his connection to her does kind of put him over the edge when she's in danger, because he, flat out murders the one guy with a rock. And, he kind of lost his mind for a second, because, he's fallen in love with her, and, she's teaching him Chinese and stuff. So they're obviously very close. And, he completely ignored Slade when Slade was like, hey, hold on, wait for my plan, because obviously I know what I'm doing. She can handle herself for, a little bit. We're just going to assess the situation and then attack. And, Oliver doesn't do that. Unfortunately, Slade is super amazing, so he goes in and beats up one guy and just, shoots the other one. But, Oliver kind of goes over the top. And I think that might be a parallel. It wasn't exactly a lesson that he learned, but it's sort of just for us as viewers to see his change, because one of the greatest things we get in this episode as well is the fact that Oliver won't be the vigilante who kills people. He's turning more into Green Arrow, who is, a hero who actually, stops crime, but, he just stops villains and, criminals. Obviously, villains being worse than criminals if you don't get the ranking. But he stops them rather than, kills them. So it'll be cool to see how that, progresses through the season. And, future seasons, just to see him, going through the motions of trying to be a full-fledged hero compared to, who he was in season one. And I love how he explains it. He said in season one, and obviously he wouldn't say that because he's in the show, but he says, back then I was avenging my father, so if we're gonna do this now, it has to be to honor Tommy. So, season one, he's just killing people who basically killed his father, in a sense, and are, killing the city. And this season, he's going to be an actual hero rather than just a vigilante who, stops criminals any way he can, usually by putting an arrow through their heart. So it'll be great to see him more as a hero compared to season one. It'll suck because it won't be. Well, I guess it's not that it'll take any sort of action out of it, but it'll be interesting to see how he handles the situations. But season one, there were so many scenes where he could hit anything out of anyone's hand. So I guess it won't really change too much. He can just he just won't kill people anymore. And it was great to see that he did save the one guy before he fell over the balcony, and it just showed his dedication to honoring Tommy's memory because that was his best friend, and he died you know thinking Oliver was a horrible person. And even in the flashback, they showed the part where Tommy, he calls him a serial killer. That's like a huge thing, to say to someone, even if they are, stopping criminals. That's just what Tommy felt, and so he called him a serial killer. So it's really great, and it's gonna be even better just to see how Oliver progresses, trying to not just be the vigilante, but actually be Green Arrow, like the hero from the comics. Something else we got, Summer Glau was in this. Um, she's kind of like a villain in this, I guess. Not a villain, but an antagonist, and it's more on the political side of things, and her trying to take over Oliver's business. And unfortunately, she isn't going to be like in the season too much because it did say guest starring her. But I really like her. I loved her, and like whatever I happen to see her in, she's always great. So it would be cool to see her in whatever episode she comes in, and the role she plays, basically trying to. I think she's still gonna try to screw over Oliver so she can take control of the company because it is a hostile takeover. So she'll try to work her way to getting those other 10 shares. So it'll be exciting to see that come into play, and she might even incorporate other villains to somehow hack the system or do anything. Who knows? But it'll be great to see her because Summer Glau is a great actress, and whatever they do with her, it's going to be well written. So it'll be great to see that. And I guess the last little bit is Roy is still trying to be a superhero after Oliver saved him in season one. After that one episode, Roy has been trying to save people left and right, and we see that the whole 6 months between season one and two, he's been going out and acting as a vigilante, beating up criminals, and trying to help people, and he gets all injured, and in this episode he tries to take on people with guns to rescue everyone in the club. And it was kind of funny to me how everyone there is just like, I'm still gonna stay scared, which it is kind of a normal situation. People have shotguns and machine guns, I understand, but it's just kind of funny. But that stuff could happen. One person could take a stand and everyone else is still too freaked out. But fortunately, he isn't obviously killed in this episode, and unfortunately he didn't get to save Thea. But we see in the end of the episode, even though she did go to see her mother, which was actually pretty well done, plot point throughout the episode, which I'll get to after Roy. But she basically had to deal with him. If she went to see her mom, he would quit being a vigilante, and he agrees to it. And of course he won't stop. But in this episode, when he goes to fight like these last three guys, this random woman comes out of nowhere, beats them all up, and then takes off. And initially, like, the first thing I thought it was Black Canary, and it could be, but her using the sticks instantly made me think it could also be Shadow, because that's just the training that they have. So whenever, if anyone's using like sticks like that, I would think it has to be it would be related to Oliver and the people he knew. And of course it's a worldwide thing. Obviously anyone could do that, but generally in a TV show, when a specific character does a specific action, it has to relate to something. So for now, I'm just relating it to Oliver, and I'm thinking it's Shadow. It's obviously not Slade because it's a woman, unless some really interesting stuff happened with him. But I'm assuming it's Shadow, and if it's not Shadow, then I would think it's Black Canary. But once again, I don't think it's her. Also because she didn't use her powers, so it just makes more sense, even though her hair is different, and that would seem weird to me. But anything could happen, change identity, all types of crazy stuff. But I'm thinking for now, I'm gonna stick with Shadow. So let me know who you think it might be: Shadow, Black Canary, anyone else. And when I saw the preview for the next episode or next week's episode, they show the woman who in season one she has like sort of the anime style white hair or like black cat hair, if that helps anybody. Just white hair. There you go. And her hair is blonde just like the other woman, but I wouldn't expect it to possibly be her because she's a bad guy, and it just doesn't make sense that she'd randomly be beating up thugs because she's like a hired assassin. So I'm pretty sure it's not her. So if anyone, you saw the trailer and you thought, oh well, they spoiled who the woman is, like I'm almost 100% sure it's not her because like I said, every episode she's ever been in, it's always her. I believe she's with the Triad, so it's always her basically being paid to kill some high-ranking person, and I highly doubt it would just be her beating up random people and getting involved and helping Roy beat up some criminals. So it's not her. You don't have to worry about that being spoiled. But Black Canary or Shadow or someone else who I might not be thinking of from the DC universe, but I don't. I'm hoping it's Shadow, but I know Black Canary will be in this season. But however that goes, it'll be great to see who it is and how they play into the series because another superhero would always be great for the show, not just because it's another superhero, but also because it would just be great to see a superhero team up. Even that character by themselves would be great, but obviously sort of a crossover effect would be the coolest thing ever. The last little storyline, Thea basically hating her mother, or trying to hate her mother for what happened with the Glades. I thought that was really good writing. She's constantly arguing with Roy about how her mother is responsible for killing tons of people. And one of the great lines was actually, I believe, the second time they spoke about it, or maybe even the first time, when Roy brings up his parents and he says, like I wish, like they were like crappy parents, but I do wish, I'd go see them if I had that chance, but I don't. And then Thea's reply, rather than being convinced that she should see her mother before it's too late, is that I'm sure tons of other children wish they could see their mothers too, but they can't because their mothers were killed during the earthquake by my mother. So I thought that was just an amazing line from her, that that was just her first thought process, like I'm sure a lot of people do because of my mother. But when she was captured, she was finally able to think clearly and not just place all the blame on her mom, and she realized it was Tommy's dad, Malcolm Merlin, and he was responsible for all that stuff. He killed her father and almost killed Oliver too, and she basically rose it all out. Her mom must have been so scared and stuff like that, which she obviously was, which we know as viewers. She got the one guy killed, unfortunately, because she had to protect herself and her kids. But she was pretty much terrified because she didn't know what could happen. Her husband got kidnapped because he knew too much, and that sadly led to them getting divorced. So death being a real thing does cause people to do stuff they normally wouldn't. And Thea finally realized that because she knew, if I die here, which of course she says herself at the end, she was thinking, if I die here, you think, or you'd live out the rest of your life thinking I hated you. And it just, her almost dying made her realize how difficult things can be in life, and how it's not just, black and white, because obviously your mom had to protect, her and Oliver. So, she learned her lesson. Unfortunately, she also didn't die, so she was able to go see her mother. And, I thought that was just a great, little resolution that was recapped in, one episode. So it'd be good to see how she's able to go through, the rest of the season with all the responsibilities she has, as far as managing the bar and stuff like that now, as well as trying to adjust to, accepting things as they are and not just, hating her mother for, you know, tons of people dying. But this episode overall I thought was really well done. I love the conversion from, Oliver being vigilante to actually, going towards being Green Arrow. And of course, at the end of the episode, I just wanted to hear him say, Green Arrow, but of course he didn't. So maybe end of this season he'll finally say it. And, all the other little hints they dropped in for us, I think will be just great for this season. Just like last season was very well done. But comment below, let me know, what are you most excited for? Is Oliver, going from the killing vigilante to, Green Arrow? Are you most excited for, the flashback stuff, which was always amazing in season one? It was always, even though he obviously survived, how did he do it? And it was really more about, do the other people survive more than it is, does Oliver survive? Because, they're all good guys too. So the questions really are, do we get to see them in the present at some point? But comment below, let me know, favorite moments, most excited, most anticipated things for the rest of this season, and anything else you have, next week's, episode for the preview. But definitely comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.